Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
This morning, I want to talk to all of us about the importance of establishing good habits. Now, I think most of us have good intentions when it comes to ourselves. We want to take care of ourselves, we want to eat right, we want to exercise. When it comes to other people, we want to take care of them appropriately, we want to be decent people in the world. But we know that in between the intention and the reality falls, as T.S. Eliot might have said, the shadow. We don't always do the things that we intend to do. We are part of a tradition that recognizes the importance of good habits, and it goes back to the Torah. Torah this morning describes Sheishanim tizra sadecha. You're supposed to sow your fields for 6 years and let it rest on the seventh so that people could benefit from the land and the land itself could benefit. And every 49 years, the 50th year was a year of release when property was supposed to go back to its original owners. Habits. But the thing is that those habits didn't take place so often. There was too much of a gap, and the Torah actually requires people to do things that are much more routine. So, for example, lo tekale pa'at tzadcha. The Israelites were told when you're gleaning in the field, you should not collect all the stuff that drops and you should leave the corners bare, le'ani v'lager, so that the poor people and the strangers could eat. This really was our ancestors being told to establish good habits. You are farming the land. Here's what you need to do. It's motor memory. It's muscle memory. It's connecting your body to your sense of what's right. And you do it over and over and over again. And that's the establishment of good habits. People wonder when it comes to tzedakah, how do you do it? How much do you give? How often do you give? And our rabbi said that it's actually better to give a little bit each day. So that's why we have a tzedakah box. So you give a little bit each day because you get into that habit of every single day you are going to give rather than giving larger donations in a way that is not necessarily habitual. And I'm going to read a passage from Maimonides, which I think is really instructive and inspiring. He said, Gidolei hachachamim hayu notnim pruta le'ani kodem kol tefillah. So the sages would give a pruta, a small amount, to a poor person before they would start to pray. Every time they were about to pray, before they did that, they would give just a modest amount of sustenance to a poor person, ve'achar kach mitpalalin, and afterwards they would pray. Why? Shene'emar, because it says in the Psalms, ani betzedek chazeh panecha. It said in the Psalm, I will face you, God, with righteousness. So you can't start praying with righteousness if you haven't done something that's righteous. But think about it. Think about the habituation. Think about if we, when we were about to pray, would do something on Shabbat. It might not be monetary, but something that positively impacted somebody else. The incredible transformative power of good habits. Oftentimes, people will say, if I don't feel like praying, I'm not going to pray. How can I say words that I'm not necessarily feeling? How can I pray if I am not in the mood to pray? Whatever that might mean. And our ancestors understood that there was a concept, kavanah, which is intention. I intend to pray, I'm thinking this. But there's also a concept called keva, which means that you do it even if you're not in the mood. You do it habitually. You do it each and every day. And they were so wise when it came to human nature. They said, mitoch shelo lishma ba lishma. You might be doing something rote, but if you start it, then the intention and the feeling might come along. And I challenge you to think of a time when you weren't in the mood to do something, whatever it might be, and you just do it. You get your body into it. You start to use your voice. You sort of are acting in a way at first, and then the intentions follow. That's the power of habituation. Just recently, I walked into our minyan, and in the morning, I saw a few members of our congregation who have come regularly, but I hadn't seen them in a few weeks. And they said, we decided that we're going to establish a new habit. We're going to pick each other up from our homes, we're going to walk together, and we're going to end up at the synagogue for morning minyan. So these individuals, and I believe they're going to reach out to some friends and expand the circle, decided that they were going to establish this habit, that they were going to establish the habit of walking together and finding themselves here and joining our minyan in prayer. I want to just urge each of us to think about the kinds of habits that we can establish. Every time I think about what's going on in Israel, I'm not quite sure what to do. I continue to advocate. We organize trips. We've done so much. What if every Friday morning you decided to text or to reach out to someone in Israel that you know? Set your alarm. Every Friday morning, before it's Shabbat, they're 7 hours ahead, so before Shabbat is about to descend, to just reach out to a family member or to a friend that you know. That is the kind of habit that can actually have a very positive impact. I have spoken about the Yad B'Yad committee that Sisterhood runs, hand in hand, reaching out to individual people, and just being on call for that. Just knowing that if somebody needs shopping done, if somebody has a simcha and they need someone to help them set up their house, if somebody needs to be driven to a medical appointment, that you are on the list as somebody who can be called. And actually, a few people have come up to me, and I have put them in touch with the leaders of Yad B'Yad, and that committee has grown because we have decided that we are going to add these good things to our own habitual behavior. I want to offer you a story which I think is very powerful about the power of good habits. So there was, in a certain part of the United States, a meat-producing company, and the employer was Jewish, and he employed hundreds of people. And every day he would walk in, first one, and at the end of the day, he would be the last person to leave. So one day, he was about to leave, and the security guard said to him, "Mr. So-and-so, you can't leave yet because something is wrong with Yoni." And the owner of the plant said, "How do you know that something is wrong with Yoni?" He said, I just have this sense. We have to go through the plant and we have to see if we can find Yoni. Something is wrong. So the owner of the plant and the security guard went room by room by room until they came upon the freezer where they keep the meat. And they opened it, and Yoni had locked himself inadvertently in there and was shivering. And thank God, they were able to find him. So the owner said to the security guard, "How did you know that Yoni was missing?" And the security guard said, "Every morning, he's one of the few people that greets me and says, 'So nice to see you.' And every evening, he's one of the few people when he leaves that says, 'Have a good night and thank you for protecting us.'" Habits. Habits can help us, and habits can help other people. And I want to urge us to think about putting our intentions into practice. Long-standing capacity that our people have to actually determine that day in and day out, we're going to do certain things that can improve ourselves, improve the lives of other people, and might even save lives along the way. Shabbat Shalom.